The air in the alien council chamber is cold like the inside of a frozen cave. A white mist hangs low on the floor, as if the stone itself is breathing. The walls are tall and curved, covered with symbols that glow faint blue. The ceiling is lost in shadow. High above a ring of alien leaders sit around a wide circle, their faces hidden under hoods of deep silver cloth, eyes shining like small moons from the darkness beneath, all watching the lone human standing in the center. His name is Ambassador Isaac Hale, a tall man with dark hair and a steady gaze, wearing the formal black and silver uniform of the United Earth Alliance. His voice is calm as he begins to speak. His words echo softly in the wide chamber. His message is simple: peace, cooperation, the hope for an end to border conflicts between Earth and the alien empire known as the Galactic Council. He tells them humanity wants trade, not war, friendship, not blood, progress, not destruction. The air feels heavy with his every word. The council listens in silence. No heads nod, no eyes soften. Their stillness is not patience, but judgment. As Hale speaks, the central figure at the far end of the circle leans forward. The High Chancellor Vorash, taller than the others, skin dark green with ridges along his jaw and gold lines marking his status. His voice is deep and carries across the room without effort. He cuts Hale off mid-sentence, asking if humans understand the price of entering alien space. Hale begins to answer, but Vorash raises one clawed hand, and the guards step forward. Two huge beings with broad shoulders and armor that glitters under the pale light, each gripping a weapon shaped like a long spear with a blade that hums. Hale takes a step back, but does not run. His eyes move from guard to guard, then back to Vorash. His voice is steady as he asks what this means. The answer is a low laugh from the Chancellor, a sound like rocks grinding together. He declares to the chamber that the Council has no need for human words, only an example for the galaxy to see. At his signal, the guard seize Hale, their grip crushing against his arms, dragging him toward a large metal platform near the wall. The sound of heavy wheels rolling echoes through the chamber as another pair of guards push forward a massive brazier, its metal sides carved with swirling patterns. Inside burns a strange green fire, not like any flame Hale has seen before. It dances and swirls in slow motion, as if moving underwater, yet it burns with a heat that stings his face even from a distance. Hale's voice rises, calling out that this is a violation of every treaty, of every code of honor. But no one moves to help him. The alien leaders simply watch, their eyes bright with cold light. Vorash speaks again, saying this is the fate of those who defy the Council, that no race may speak against their will and live. The guards lift Hale onto the platform above the brazier. Chains rattle as they secure his wrists and ankles. The fire's green glow reflects off his uniform, the heat now so close it seems to reach into his skin. Hale stares at the council members, his voice firm even as sweat forms on his brow. He tells them humanity will not forget. Humanity will not forgive. The words hang in the air, sharp as a blade. But Vorash only signals the guards again. The brazier is lifted by hidden mechanisms, rising slowly until the flames are level with Hale's legs. The heat is unbearable. The green fire crackles in a sound that is almost a whisper, as if the flame itself is alive and speaking. The guards release the platform and step back. Hale's jaw is set. He does not scream. The fire licks at his boots, climbing higher. The chamber smells of burning fabric. The alien leaders remain silent. Vorash leans back in his seat, his expression unreadable. And then a deep, booming voice fills the hall, declaring that this moment will be broadcast across the galaxy as a warning to all who might resist the Council. Lights in the walls brighten, revealing small hovering drones now recording the scene from every angle. Far away on Earth, giant screens in public squares suddenly switch to a live feed. Citizens stop in their tracks. Soldiers in training pause mid-drill. Politicians in the Capitol stare in frozen shock. The image of Hale bound above the green fire fills every home and every station. The sound is clear, his last words carrying over the feed. His voice strong, telling Earth to stand proud, to never bow, to fight if they must. Then the flames rise higher, swallowing his legs, climbing to his chest. The heat distorts the image, but his face remains visible. Eyes steady, no scream, only defiance. Then the fire surges and the feed cuts to black. Back in the council chamber, the brazier lowers, leaving only ashes and chains. The alien leaders rise slowly from their seats. Vorash stands last, raising his hands high and speaking to the chamber that the galaxy has seen the power of the council, and that no human will ever set foot in this hall again. The guards remove the brazier, its green fire still burning quietly, as if hungry for more. The mist on the floor begins to rise again, swallowing the last trace of heat. Outside the hall, the alien city glows under a sky of 2 moons, unaware that the stars themselves are now shifting toward war. For though Earth is silent in this moment, its silence is not surrender. It is the breath before the storm, the calm before the fire. The broadcast ends, but the image burns itself into every mind. The green fire, the chains, the unbroken eyes of Ambassador Hale. It spreads through the networks like a storm in the dark. News feeds replay the moment again and again. Some voices cry for war at once. Others whisper in fear. In cities across the world, people gather in squares staring up at giant screens, faces lit by the cold glow of the alien feed. A mother holds her child close. An old soldier clenches his fists. Students stand, shoulder to shoulder, not speaking. The silence is heavier than shouting, heavier than grief. It is the silence of something building. In the Great Hall of the United Earth Alliance government, the president sits at the long table with the generals and the heads of intelligence. No one speaks until the doors are locked and the walls are scanned for listening devices. When the last light turns green, the president leans forward and speaks in a voice that carries across the room without rising. He says the council has made their choice, and now Earth will make theirs. He does not call for speeches. He calls for action. At once the generals begin reading orders. Fleets are to prepare for full mobilization. Civilian spaceports are quietly requisitioned. Deep space listening posts are told to track all council fleet movements in real time. Black operations teams are activated with orders known only to them. In the high orbit of Earth, massive shipyards hang like steel cities in the void. They have been building at normal pace for years, but now every worker receives the same encrypted signal. All leave is canceled. All systems run at full speed. Production triples in days. Warships under construction are finished ahead of schedule. Some designs never before revealed now take shape in the shadows, their hulls black as night, their engines silent until called to life. Every supply freighter leaving. The yards now carry sealed containers marked with no origin and no destination. Beneath the oceans, in deep vaults sealed since before most were born, great hangar doors slide open for the first time in decades. Machines the size of small buildings are hauled into hidden cargo bays. They are covered with armor that seems to swallow light. Weapons whose shapes are unknown to most humans. Their power sources humming low and dangerous, guarded by soldiers who carry strange rifles that do not fire bullets, but beams of white light. On the moon, hidden under the cover of old mining colonies, new command centers come alive. Walls lined with screens, showing every known council world. Fleets are plotted as moving lines of red across the star maps. Human fleets are marked in blue. The lines do not touch yet, but the blue lines are moving. The media is not told the truth. They're given a different story, that Earth will lodge an official protest, that negotiations will continue, that humanity seeks peace. On the surface, it seems Earth is quiet. No war speeches, no rallies, just mourning and silence. But under the surface, the machines of war are turning faster every hour. In the deserts of Australia, long runways that have been empty for years now echo with the roar of engines. Massive transports lift into the sky, carrying cargo wrapped in heavy shrouds. In the Arctic, deep under the ice, a massive bay door opens into the sea. Sleek black submarines slide out and vanish under the waves, their destinations unknown, their crews silent even to their own families. Across the world, young men and women receive messages from recruitment offices. Some are called to training. Others are told to report to facilities they have never heard of. They do not ask questions. They know what this is. Every soldier who saw the broadcast now carries Hale's last words in their minds. the promise to stand proud, to never bow, to fight if they must, and fight they will. In orbit, a fleet of older warships begins drills, but not the kind the Council spies expect. These ships run patterns meant to confuse any tracking systems. Some even broadcast false damage reports to make them seem weaker than they are, all to lure the Council into underestimating them. Meanwhile, the real strike fleets remain hidden, cloaked by advanced stealth fields, drifting in the shadows of moons and asteroids. Their crews waiting in silence, engines cold, weapons charged. In the intelligence headquarters deep below Geneva, a small team works without rest, decoding Council transmissions, tracing supply routes, finding the weak points in their vast empire. They feed this information directly to the War Council. Every route marked, every fleet counted, every possible strike plan down to the minute. The maps are updated every hour as if the future itself is being drawn in real time. On Mars, the industrial districts glow red in the night as massive forges produce armor plating, missile casings, and shield cores. Cargo shuttles move without pause from factory to orbital docks. Even the civilian workers move with quiet purpose. They know war is coming. The only question is when Earth will strike. In the dark far from any planet, a single ship drifts with no lights. It is the Vigilance, the flagship of Admiral Kieran Voss, one of Earth's most feared commanders. Aboard him are officers chosen for skill and for loyalty. They review the footage of Hale again and again, not for horror, but for resolve, every second burned into their memories. The Admiral says nothing for a long time, then simply orders the ship to maintain position and await the signal. Every officer knows what that signal will mean. Back on Earth, the president stands alone in the observation deck above the Capitol. The city lights stretch far into the horizon. He looks up at the stars and sees not beauty but battlefields. He remembers the green fire. He remembers the silence after the broadcast ended. He knows the Council believes that silence is fear. He knows they believe Earth will kneel like so many before them. But they are wrong. The silence is not weakness. It is the gathering of a storm that will sweep through the stars and leave the Council in ashes. The orders are given in whispers, the fleets are moved in shadows, the weapons are armed behind locked doors, and still to the outside world Earth seems calm, but the calm is only a mask. Behind it every hand is clenched, every mind is set, and every heart burns with the same fire that the Council thought would break them. But instead it forged them, and when the time comes that fire will not burn in one man above a brazier. It will burn across the skies of every Council world until the galaxy knows what it means to awaken the wrath of humanity. The alien capital is a city of crystal towers and glowing bridges. The sky above is painted in shades of deep gold and violet as the twin suns set beyond the horizon. From the highest tower of them, all the great Council chamber looks down on a million lights that shine like fallen stars. Inside the chamber, the mood is heavy with pride and self-satisfaction. The leaders have gathered for what they call a night of victory. The execution of a human diplomat is already being played on great holoscreens that line the walls. Each replay slowed so that the green flames dance like liquid emerald. The sound of the human's last words is muted so that only the image remains, pure and silent. A picture of what they believe is their dominance. High Chancellor Vorash stands at the center of the circle, his tall frame wrapped in a robe of deep blue silk trimmed with gold. He lifts a goblet carved from the bone of some great beast and speaks to the gathered leaders. His voice is deep and rolls like thunder through the chamber. He declares that the Council's strength has been proven once again, that no upstart race will ever challenge them and live. The others answer with a chorus of approval, their voices mixing with the soft hum of alien instruments playing in the background, a rhythm slow and heavy, like the beating of a giant heart. Servants move between the leaders carrying trays of rare food from across the empire, slabs of crimson flesh that still steam, crystalline fruits that glow faintly in the dim light, goblets of liquid silver that swirl like mercury. The leaders eat and drink and speak of how the galaxy will now see humans as weak and broken. Their words carry the arrogance of those who have ruled unchallenged for centuries. They speak of sending new fleets to human borders, of demanding tribute, of taking what they want from Earth without resistance. Vorash listens to their boasting, but his mind drifts to the hidden calculations that have always guided him. He knows fear is the true weapon of the Council, not fleets or weapons. The burning of the human diplomat is meant to seed that fear into every race watching, to make them believe that resistance will only bring fire. Yet in some deep corner of his mind, shadow of doubt stirs, a whisper he ignores. For to doubt now would be to admit weakness before those who look to him as unshakable. Outside the chamber, in the great avenues of the capital city, as celebration spreads, alien citizens fill the streets waving banners that show the sigil of the Council. Musicians play loud and wild, the green fires projected into the night sky as a symbol, towering high above the crowd. Merchants sell trinkets carved with the image of the brazier. Children laugh and chase each other through the light, and in the air above, great flocks of winged beasts circle in slow spirals, their calls echoing between the crystal towers. News channels across the empire broadcast the celebration. Interviews with leaders praising the decision, speeches about unity and strength, endless commentary on how humans will now fall in line. Every world in the Council's reach sees the same image, the same message, and the same arrogance in the faces of their rulers. Far from the capital, these broadcasts reach border worlds where some citizens cheer, others stay silent, and a few watch with hard eyes, knowing that such pride can be dangerous. In the private lounge above the chamber, Vorash meets with his closest advisors. They drink together and review military deployments, laughing at how the human fleets remain near their home system as if afraid to move. One advisor suggests sending a fleet to orbit Earth itself. Another proposes seizing the Martian colonies. Vorash waves them off for now, saying there is no rush, that humans will break themselves with fear and in time will beg for mercy. They all agree, and the laughter grows louder. In the midst of the noise, a single junior officer enters the lounge with a report, his skin pale and eyes wide. He says that 3 patrol ships near the outer rim have failed to check in. Vorash frowns, but says it is likely a malfunction. The officer hesitates, but is dismissed. The conversation returns to talk of expanding the empire. The music swells again from the chamber below, and the celebration continues without pause. On the streets, the festivities last deep into the night. Fireworks of gold and red burst in the skies, casting their light over the shining towers. The image of the brazier flickers across massive holoscreens. Citizens chant the name of the Council in unison, their voices echoing like the roar of a great beast. Merchants grow rich selling victory charms, and everywhere there is the sense of a people who believe nothing can touch them. In the grand dining hall, leaders from distant worlds exchange gifts with Vorash, rare gems, weapons of ancient wars, relics from long-dead civilizations. He accepts each with a gracious smile, every gift a sign of loyalty. Yet as the night stretches on, he notices a few faces among the gathered who seem less eager, less warm, their eyes darting as if measuring his words. He files the thought away for later, unwilling to mar the evening with suspicion. Above the capital, in the quiet of orbit, patrol ships drift on their assigned paths, crews half alert, their commanders sure no threat exists this deep in Council space. The starlit void is peaceful, silent, but in that silence, unseen eyes are watching. Far beyond the range of the patrol's sensors, small human stealth probes float in the darkness, each recording every light and every signal from the capital, feeding their data through encrypted channels to places the Council does not even know exist. As the twin suns rise the next day, the celebrations begin to fade, the streets clear, the music stops, the banners come down. Yet the Council's pride remains as strong as the night before. They believe the humans will send no answer. They believe their warning has worked. They believe the galaxy is once again reminded of their place at the top of all power. Vorash sits in his private chamber looking out at the sunrise, sipping from a goblet, thinking of how easy it was, how clean, how final. But somewhere far away in the cold reaches of space, human fleets wait in silence. Engines dark, weapons ready, their commanders patient, their crews hungry for the order that will turn the silence into fire. And in that quiet shadow, the seeds of the Council's downfall are already taking root, unseen by those who think themselves untouchable, unshaken. and unbreakable. The very night of their greatest celebration will one day be remembered as the moment they sealed their fate, though in this moment they laugh, they drink, they feast, they believe themselves eternal. They do not hear the whisper moving through the stars, the whisper that carries the last words of the man they burned, words that now live in the hearts of billions, words that promise the galaxy will change forever when the silence breaks. 3 weeks pass since the burning of Ambassador Hale, 3 weeks of silence from Earth, 3 weeks in which the Council grows certain of its victory. Patrol ships move lazily through border sectors. Supply convoys travel without heavy escort. Council propaganda fills every channel claiming the humans have bowed their heads and accepted their place. High Chancellor Vorash uses the calm to push forward new decrees that strip even more freedoms from human trade routes. Each order sent without concern for consequence, and in the eyes of the Council the matter is closed. Yet far from the glow of the capital, deep in the cold shadows between stars, something stirs. In a region of space where no Council patrol has ventured in years, a fleet of dark shapes drifts in silence. Engines cold, hulls black against the endless night. These are not the bright silver ships of the old human fleets known to the Council. These are something else, born from designs kept secret for decades. Weapons and armor drawn from projects buried under the ice of Antarctica and hidden under the oceans, each ship built for one purpose only, to kill. Admiral Kieran Voss stands on the command deck of the flagship Vigilance, his hands clasped behind his back, eyes fixed on the holographic star map before him. Every Council patrol ship, every convoy, every listening post is marked in red. The blue icons of his own fleet are scattered far apart in a formation meant to confuse sensors. The crew works in near silence, every officer knowing that the order could come at any second. An order that will break the 3 weeks of quiet and ignite the largest war humanity has ever fought. The first target is a Council patrol group assigned to Sector 18, 3 ships moving along a predictable route between 2 uninhabited moons. Their shields are down to conserve power, their crews relaxed. One ship even runs open music feeds across the comms. They do not see the small black darts that drift into their path. They do not hear the faint clicks of targeting systems locking on. The first explosion comes without warning. A flash of white light that swallows the lead ship, tearing it in half before its captain can even give an order. The second ship turns hard but is struck in the engines, spinning out of control into the moon's surface. The third tries to jump to faster than light, but its drive fails under a sudden burst of electromagnetic interference. A heartbeat later it too is gone, leaving only drifting debris and silence. News of the missing patrol reaches the Council within hours, but Vorash dismisses it as an accident. Yet before the report can even be filed, another fleet vanishes near the far edge of Council space. Then a supply convoy is destroyed between 2 core worlds. Then communication hubs begin to fail in perfect sequence, each loss coming faster than the last. Every strike surgical, clean, and absolute. No survivors. No transmissions. Only absence where there was once power. In the war room beneath the capital, panic begins to show. Council strategists argue over whether the attacks are the work of pirates or some rogue species. None dare say the word humans aloud. Vorash remains outwardly calm, but deep inside a slow anger grows. He orders all fleets to return to defensive positions, trade routes to be rerouted, and border sectors to be locked down. Yet even as he speaks, new reports arrive of strikes deep inside what should be safe territory. The enemy is moving too fast, too precisely, as if they know the Council's every plan before it is made. Out in the void, the Vigilance and her fleet continue their work, each strike carefully planned, each attack designed not just to destroy, but to send a message. Human crews fight without cheers, without celebration. Every victory is only another step toward the real goal, the destruction of the Council's power at its root. They move like ghosts, their ships vanishing after each battle into the dark, leaving the Council to guess and fail again and again. On the planet Telvar Prime, a Council military hub sits under a dome of crystal and steel. Its defense is thought to be unbreakable, yet in the dead of night, a human infiltration team slips through using stolen access codes. Charges are set on the main power core. The explosion lights the sky for miles, the dome collapses, and every ship in the dock is reduced to molten wreckage before alarms can even finish sounding. Human ships waiting beyond the atmosphere rain down fire on the fleeing defenders, the entire installation gone in less than an hour. The effect on the Council is immediate and devastating. Supply shortages ripple through their fleets. Entire sectors go dark without communication. Morale among their crews begins to crack. Whispers of human vengeance spread like disease. Some officers refuse to leave port. Others desert entirely. Vorash holds emergency meetings, but each plan is undone before it begins, as if the humans are reading his thoughts. The truth is that they are, for human spies and AI intercept systems have been embedded in Council networks for months, gathering every secret, every weakness, and now every piece is being used. Across Earth, the silence remains. No official declaration, no public speeches, only the occasional coded transmission sent from deep command bunkers to the fleets in the field, each order bringing the noose tighter around the Council's neck. In the cities, people go about their days, knowing nothing of the scale of the war already raging among the stars. But in the shadows, soldiers return from missions with eyes hard and cold. Ships arrive at hidden docks with hulls scorched and weapons empty, only to be refitted and sent back into the dark. For Vorash, the breaking point comes when one of the outer defense moons of the capital itself is destroyed, a single human strike ship slipping past all sensors to plant charges in the moon's core. The explosion is visible from the capital towers, a burning sphere of rock and molten metal that lights the night like a second sun. The shockwave destroys half the orbital fleet before they can even react. And in the silence that follows, a single transmission is received across every Council channel. A voice speaking in clear, measured tones. This is only the beginning. The voice is not angry, not loud, yet it carries more weight than any shout, for every leader in the Council recognizes it at once. It is the voice of Ambassador Isaac Hale, recorded before his final mission, preserved for this moment. And in that instant, they understand that the man they burned alive has become the spark of a fire they cannot control, a fire now burning its way across their empire with precision and purpose. The fire of humanity's vengeance. And it is only just beginning. The night sky above a dozen Council worlds is no longer safe. What was once filled only with the soft glow of trade ships and patrol routes now hides unseen hunters. Human fleets move without light and without sound, striking in the hours between dawn and dusk when sensors are least reliable. Their presence is never announced, only felt in the sudden silence of lost communication. In the burning wreckage of ships that never sent distress calls, in the empty stations where crews vanish without a trace. This is not open war, this is something far colder. In the command decks of human strike fleets, there is no celebration after victory. Every mission is executed with the same quiet precision. Every crew member aware that speed and invisibility are their greatest weapons. They speak in short-coded phrases. They eat in silence. They sleep with weapons within reach. The only light in their cabins is the pale glow of mission maps, red markers for targets, blue markers for safe exits. The maps change daily, always shifting, always one step ahead of the Council's slow reaction. On the Council worlds, fear begins to spread. Not the loud fear of riots or protests, but the deep, quiet fear that moves between whispers. Merchant captains refuse to take certain routes. Mining colonies stop sending shipments to central hubs. Outpost governors send urgent requests for more ships, only to learn the fleets they expected have been destroyed or vanished. Even the elite worlds near the capital begin to see sudden shortages of fuel and supplies. The markets grow tense, prices rise. Tempers flare, yet still the Council tells its people that all is under control. In the shadows of space, the truth is very different. Human intelligence teams have mapped the Council's infrastructure like a web. Every strand traced, every weak point marked. They do not strike at random. They cut at the connections that hold the Empire together. Every destroyed hub isolates worlds from one another. Every lost convoy leaves fleets stranded without fuel. Every silenced relay hides the truth from the next world in line. The Council is too vast to defend every part at once, and So the humans strike where they cannot be stopped. In one such strike, a small human task force enters the Oravel Belt, a region of jagged asteroids rich in metals. Here the Council operates massive refineries protected by a single defense station. The station commander trusts in his thick armor and heavy guns. Yet when the attack comes, it does not begin with gunfire. It begins with darkness. The power grid collapses in an instant. The station's weapons freeze. The lights go out, and in that darkness, human boarding teams cut through the hull, moving room to room without a single shot wasted. By the time power returns, the station is already lost, its reactors set to overload, its crew locked in secure holds. The humans vanish before the explosion lights the asteroids in red fire. Council propaganda tries to spin each loss as a minor setback. Yet even the citizens who once believed now begin to doubt. They hear the same phrases after every strike. They see the same leaders giving the same reassurances. But they also see their skies grow darker and their shelves grow emptier. Whispers spread of human war ghosts, invisible fleets, unstoppable weapons. In the taverns of distant trade ports, even alien captains begin to toast quietly to the humans. Not out of loyalty, but out of respect for their skill. High Chancellor Vorash does not drink to the humans. He drinks to silence the constant reports of failure that pile on his desk. Every day brings a new list of destroyed ships. Every day, another fleet is lost without survivors. His admirals argue in circles, some demanding all fleets be recalled to defend the core worlds, others insisting on mass attacks in a human space. Vorash knows both paths carry risk. But worse than risk is the knowledge that every move he makes seems to be predicted by the enemy. Orders sent in secret are met with ambushes. Patrols move to new routes or destroyed before completing a single cycle. Someone or something is feeding the humans their plans. The truth sits far beyond the Council's reach. Deep inside a hollowed asteroid on the edge of a black star, a human listening post receives every Council transmission seconds after it is sent. Artificial intelligence systems decode and relay the information to fleet commanders. Human spies within the Council's lower ranks plant false reports to sow confusion. Entire patrol routes are fabricated and fed to alien captains who then find themselves walking into traps. The war is not just fought with ships and guns, it is fought with lies and shadows. And in that war, the humans have become masters. In the cold hours of one silent night, the humans take the war even deeper. Admiral Voss orders a strike not on ships or stations, but on mines. A coordinated series of raids targets high-ranking Council officers in their own homes. Teams slip past security, disabling communication, seizing data cores, and leaving without killing unless necessary. Each officer awakens to find their most private information gone, their access code stolen, their hidden accounts emptied. It is a message as much as a theft, a reminder that there is nowhere safe from human reach. The effect is immediate. Paranoia begins to crack the Council's unity. Accusations fly between leaders. Some are arrested. Others vanish before they can be taken. Trust dissolves and coordination falters. Fleets hesitate to move without triple confirmation. Supply chains stall as commanders demand proof their destinations are secure. And all the while, human fleets move freely through the gaps left in this fractured command structure, striking where the defenses are weakest. On Earth, the people still see little of the war beyond the rare official update. Yet in secret rooms, the President and the War Council track every move. Maps covered in shifting lights tell a story the public will one day hear. Worlds once loyal to the Council now isolated. Fleets once feared now crippled. Supply lines once unbreakable, now cut to pieces. The Shadow War is no longer just a series of strikes. It is the slow collapse of an empire that once thought itself untouchable. Vorash feels it too, though he will not admit it aloud. He can sense the ground shifting under his feet, his empire bleeding in places he cannot see, his people growing restless, his fleets shrinking by the day. Yet still he holds to the belief that a single decisive blow against humanity could end the war. He dreams of finding their hidden fleets, of burning their worlds as they burned his enemies before. But every path to that victory seems to lead into the same darkness that is already swallowed so much of his power. And somewhere beyond the reach of his sensors, the humans prepare for their next move. A move that will not be made in shadow, but in fire. For the Shadow War has done its work. The Council is weak, its unity cracked, its fleets scattered. And soon the time will come to end it not with whispers, but with the roar of open war across the stars. The capital of the Galactic Council had always been a place of bright towers and unbroken pride. Its streets paved with light, its skies patrolled by fleets that never left their posts. The people believed no enemy could ever set foot here. They believed the walls of ships and soldiers around their world were unbreakable. They believed the capital was the heart of the galaxy, and that no heart could be touched by war. But belief is not the same as truth, and the truth was coming for them faster than they could imagine. In the dark hours before dawn, the first signs of the coming storm appeared, not in the form of ships in the sky, but in silence. The great orbital defense rings that circled the planet suddenly lost power, their massive cannons frozen in place, their tracking systems blind, the crews inside them trapped as all hatches locked. The command center on the surface tried to raise them, but heard only static. The leaders told themselves it was a malfunction, but deep inside they felt the cold hand of fear. Far beyond the reach of the capital's eyes, the human fleets moved as one, their largest armada yet, black ships cutting through the void like blades. Every engine tuned for silence until the moment of attack. Each vessel carried its own mission, some to strike at the orbital stations, some to target the fleets docked in the shipyards, others to descend toward the surface itself. This was not a raid. It was not a test. It was the blow that would decide the war. Admiral Voss stood on the bridge of his flagship, his gaze fixed on the holographic display that showed the capital growing larger with every passing second. The faces of his crew were calm, but their eyes burned with the memory of the human diplomat burned alive. The images of that day had been etched into their minds. Every order they gave now was a step toward justice, or revenge, perhaps both. Voss knew that once the attack began, there would be no turning back. The war would end here one way or another. The first wave struck without warning. Human bombers emerged from the shadow of the moon and swept across the nearest shipyard, torpedoes tearing through docked council vessels before they could even power their engines. The explosions lit the sky, pieces of burning hull falling toward the atmosphere. Panic spread across the council defense networks. Orders clashed, fleets scrambled, but their formations were broken before they could form. The humans had chosen their targets well, each strike cutting the chain of command in half. On the surface, High Chancellor Vorash was woken by the tremor of distant impacts. His advisors rushed into his chambers, their voices overlapping in a storm of panic. Reports of destroyed stations, vanished fleets, enemy ships entering the atmosphere. He demanded to know where his capital defense fleet was and was told it had been caught in the docks, half destroyed before launch, the rest retreating to avoid annihilation. Vorash felt his chest tighten, but he would not allow himself to believe the capital could truly fall. The second wave began. Drop ships streaked through the upper air, their heat shields glowing. Guided by stealth drones that had been placed in orbit weeks before, they cut through gaps in the scattered council defenses and landed directly in the heart of the government district. Soldiers in black armor poured out, their movements fast and precise. They were not here to conquer the city street by street. They were here for something far more focused. They were here for Vorash himself. The council guards fought hard, but they were unprepared for soldiers who had been fighting in the Shadow War for months. These humans moved like ghosts, vanishing around corners, appearing behind barricades, striking with unerring aim. The streets echoed with the clash of weapons, the crack of railguns, the shouts of orders drowned out by the roar of distant detonations. In the chaos, the civilians fled, their belief in the invincible capital shattering with every falling tower. Inside the council hall, Vorash ordered the evacuation tunnels opened, but his command codes failed. The humans had already seized the control rooms beneath the building, sealing the exits, locking him and his advisors inside. The Chancellor's eyes narrowed. He ordered his personal guard to prepare for a final stand. If he was to fall, it would be on his feet with a weapon in his hand. But deep inside, he felt the creeping weight of the inevitable, the same weight that had crushed so many of his commanders before him. Outside the hall, the human strike team advanced. Their leader, Captain Reeve, moved at the front, his visor scanning every corner. His orders clear: capture Vorash alive if possible, but do not let him escape under any circumstances. The team cut through the last lines of defense with surgical precision, their footsteps echoing in the grand marble corridors, the banners of the council hanging torn and burned on the walls, each step bringing them closer to the chamber where the chancellor waited. The doors to the chamber shook under the force of the breaching charges, the air filled with smoke and the sound of shattering metal. The humans poured in, weapons raised. The guards fell one by one. Vorash stood at the center, holding a ceremonial blade more for honor than for use. His eyes locked on Reeve. There was no fear in them now, only a defiant fire. He spoke words in his own tongue, a challenge, a curse, perhaps a plea, but Reeve did not answer. He moved forward, disarming the chancellor with a single strike and forcing him to his knees. Outside in the city, the battle still raged, but it was no longer a battle for control. The council's remaining forces were scattered, their fleets in orbit destroyed or fleeing. The humans now controlled the skies, their ships moving freely above the burning towers. Evacuation ships carrying civilians were allowed to leave under escort. Humanity had no wish to slaughter the innocent. This was a war against the council leadership, not its people, though many in the galaxy would remember it as. The day the capital burned, Vorash was taken to the flagship, his presence a signal to every remaining council commander that resistance was over. The broadcasts went out across the galaxy, images of the once untouchable chancellor in human custody, the message clear: the war that had begun with the burning of a human diplomat had ended with the capture of the alien leader who ordered it. The cost had been great. The galaxy had been scarred. But for humanity, there was a grim satisfaction in knowing justice had been served. Yet even as the capital smoldered and the council's power crumbled, there was no celebration on the human ships. The crews stood in silence, their eyes on the stars, knowing that victory did not erase the loss that had started it all, knowing that somewhere in the galaxy new threats would rise, and that one day they might again be called to fight. For now, they had ended one war, but the story of humanity among the stars was far from over. The war was over, yet the silence that followed felt heavier than the noise of battle. The capital world of the Galactic Council lay in ruins, its once shining towers reduced to broken shells, the air filled with the smell of smoke and metal, the rivers choked with debris from bridges that had stood for centuries. The streets were empty except for the faint sound of distant footsteps as human patrols moved through the city, checking for survivors and ensuring no ambush remained in the shadows. The people watched from behind cracked walls, their faces pale with fear and uncertainty. In the grand hall of the former council, the banners of the alien alliance had been taken down, replaced with no flag at all. Admiral Voss stood at the center, addressing the leaders of the human fleet and a handful of representatives from neutral worlds who had come to witness the end. He spoke with a voice that carried across the chamber, telling them that humanity had not come to destroy the galaxy, but to ensure that no power could again harm its people without consequences. Words were calm, but behind them was the steel of resolve, the same resolve that had carried the fleet through every battle since the day the human diplomat was burned alive. High Chancellor Vorash sat in restraints at the side of the hall under heavy guard, his eyes scanning the humans with a mixture of hatred and something else, perhaps respect, perhaps the grudging recognition of an enemy who had fought with strength and skill. He said nothing as the proceedings continued, but his silence was its own kind of statement. In the eyes of the galaxy, the Council's defeat was total. The message was simple: no one was untouchable. Outside the hall, engineers and medics worked side by side, some repairing power grids, others tending to the wounded. Regardless of species, humanity had brought medical supplies and food for the civilians, a gesture meant to show that the war was against the council leadership, not against the people themselves. In the streets, alien families accepted water and blankets from human soldiers with hesitant hands, some still unable to believe that the same forces who had destroyed their fleets could also offer aid. It was a strange and fragile peace born from the ashes of violence. Far above the planet, the remains of the human fleet orbited like a black crown. Many ships bore scars from the battle, some so damaged They could barely keep station, but there was no talk of retreat, yet the Armada would remain until order was secured and new agreements were signed. Already negotiations had begun to form a new governing body, one where humanity would have a seat at the table not as a guest, but as an equal. The days of being dismissed as a young and weak species were over. In the War Council chamber, aboard the flagship, Captain Reeve stood before a map of the galaxy, his hands clasped behind his back, as he listened to reports from intelligence officers. Pockets of Council loyalists had fled to distant systems, gathering resources and planning retaliation. There were whispers of mercenary fleets for hire, of hidden weapons left in deep space vaults. Voss knew this victory was not the end, it was merely the breaking of the old order. What came next would decide whether the galaxy slid into chaos or moved towards something more stable. On the surface, a memorial was being built on the steps of the council hall, a simple stone monument with an inscription in both human language and the common tongue. It bore the name of the diplomat whose death had started the war, alongside the names of soldiers and civilians of all species who had fallen in the conflict. The monument was not tall or grand, but it carried a weight that could be felt by all who stood before it. The message was clear: remember what was lost and why. Vorash was eventually moved to a secure holding facility in orbit, guarded day and night by elite Marines. He was to stand trial for war crimes before a newly formed tribunal composed of human and neutral world judges. Some argued he should be executed immediately. Others said a trial was necessary to show that even in victory humanity would follow law, not vengeance. The debate was heated, but Voss held firm on the decision. The trial would happen, and it would be public for the entire galaxy to witness. Weeks passed, and the capital began to breathe again. Lights returned to the streets, markets reopened, though under the watch of human sentries. Trade ships once again touched down in the ports, though their crews stepped carefully in a city still haunted by recent battle. In the quiet corners of the city, some spoke of the humans as liberators, others as conquerors, but all agreed that the balance of power had changed forever. During one quiet night, Voss stood alone on the observation deck of his flagship, staring at the planet below. The lights of the capital glimmered faintly against the dark surface like tiny stars in a sea of shadow. He thought of the cost of victory, the friends lost, the cities burned, the unshakable knowledge that even now someone somewhere was planning the next war. He knew humanity's place in the galaxy had been secured, but it had been bought with blood and could only be kept with vigilance. Back on Earth, news of the victory spread across the planet. Celebrations filled the cities, parades rolled through the streets, families of soldiers wept both in pride and grief. Humanity had faced the most powerful political and military body in the galaxy and emerged not just alive, but dominant. Yet the leaders of Earth warned their people that power brought responsibility. The galaxy was watching, and every action would shape the future. Alliances would need to be formed, trust carefully built, and old wounds healed if lasting peace was to be more than a dream. The day of the trial came, and the galaxy tuned in to watch Vorash face judgment. The chamber was filled with representatives of dozens of worlds, each one listening as evidence was presented of his orders, his speeches, his refusal to stop the burning of the human diplomat despite pleas from his own advisors. The trial lasted days, and in the end the verdict was unanimous: guilty. The sentence was life in a secure station, orbiting a dead world, a prison from which there was no escape. The sentence was read. Vorash stood without speaking, his eyes fixed on Voss, who had come to witness the end. There was no triumph in the Admiral's gaze, only a quiet acknowledgement that justice had been served. As the guards led Vorash away, the galaxy seemed to take a collective breath. A chapter had closed, a new one beginning. In the years that followed, the new council took shape, humanity working alongside other worlds to create a system that could respond to threats before they became wars. Some still feared humanity's strength, others admired it, but none doubted it anymore. The memory of the burning diplomat and the war that followed remained a warning etched into the heart of the galaxy, a reminder that in the cold void between stars, even the smallest spark of cruelty could ignite a fire too large to control. And so the capital stood rebuilt, its towers rising once more, but forever marked by the shadows of the past. And in the skies above, human ships continued their patrols, watchful and ready, knowing that peace was only ever a moment between storms.